Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Hello, Maverick family, all you misfits from the island of misfit toys. Welcome home. Great to have everybody here. I have so much stuff to cover tonight. I don't know if I will get through it all, but I will do my best. I started compiling stuff while I was sleeping last night, as I do, and it's just been piling up the stories. Biden, his peace deal. Sorry. Oh, what a farce that thing has turned out to be. And now he says he's going to basically shut down the border. Take care of that immigration problem. Yeah. And information warfare ramping up with crackdowns on media outlets and, aggressive attacks from one side against the other. Both sides engaging in efforts to suppress their information warfare political opponents. And it is a war. We are in World War III. It's a struggle between authoritarianism and democratic free states. That's sort of the way it is. And in this corner, we have the Islamo-fascist, communist, left-wing, liberal, neo, whatever, progressives. And in the other corner, there's one or two of us left over here. On the freedom side, the true freedom side. And it's being very strange because I'm finding people are more confused than ever. And many of the friends that I thought I had who were pro-freedom are now all in on authoritarianism and communism, and I don't think they understand what they're even doing anymore. I think that people have become very confused. We're going to talk about it. What else do I have for you? Is that not enough? Let me just look at my list. We've got stuff. We've got stuff. Some messages that were sent to me overnight kind of primed me a little bit for tonight's broadcast. So it's skewed a little bit in that sense that maybe what I'm going to talk about tonight is the result of information people have been sending me that's getting a reaction from me where I'm like, maybe I should talk about that. Maybe I should talk about that. But it might not be stuff that is necessarily front and center in the news. But I think for the most part, we're going to stay on track and hit the top news stories of the day and then dig into some details that I think you'll find helpful. I hope you do anyway. And when we come back, we'll get right into it with our first story of this broadcast, which is a memorial. Today is the 35th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. Don't go away. We'll return on the other side.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
"35 years. I told you the other night I'm a fossil. I remember Tiananmen Square. That's how old I am. Yeah. Do you remember Tank Man? The man who stood in front of the tank in defiance of an authoritarian regime. Made headlines all around the world, changed the world. That one guy made a difference, didn't he? And yet, strangely, I think probably half of the people in the United States today would prefer to see him run over with the tank. Things have become that strange. In Canada, too, where I don't recognize the country anymore, and I don't even understand the way people think anymore, because I think they're all very, very, very confused, largely because of the crap that people are fed online. I'm not just talking about the mainstream media, which has its problems. I'm talking about all the other crap that's out there. You know, part of what makes a free society free is a good education system. That's part of what the United States was founded upon, was the idea that you needed an educated citizenry so that they could make good decisions at the ballot box. But what happens when you unleash the most powerful information tool known to mankind in the internet, and then you bombard people with so much crap that you can't tell what's valid, what's useful? You can't even tell anymore what's real and what isn't. And then I have people sending me crap saying, "You just don't understand." Yeah, I do, man. I'm old. I don't need the new textbook online telling me how history has been rewritten. I lived through it. I'm old. Today, members of U.S. Congress warned that the ruling Chinese Communist Party, which was in power 35 years ago in Beijing, is still authoritarian. And they are warning people about the government there, saying that, they will crack down on people who are subversive, engaging in any kind of separatist activities. They still employ policies like that. I'll tell you this, they do have stability in their country in that regard, but what they don't have is free speech. Largely, democracy is messy. Freedom is very messy, especially in a very free society, an open society such as the one we have. It's becoming less and less open and free. But that's because more and more people are abusing those freedoms and acting in a malicious way. And it's also because we have governments that are infiltrated by politicians who have been captured, I would say, by foreign interests. But we'll get into that in a moment. And there is clear evidence of that. I'm not just making stuff up like some people who keep sending me crap through the night. You know who you are. It's okay. I'm old, so I can tell the difference sometimes. It's getting harder and harder with artificial intelligence. But before we get into that, let's go to New York City. This was actually some hours ago. This was leading up. This is a prelude to today's anniversary, the 35th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. This was at the Victims of Communism Memorial in New York City, where 2 years ago they opened a museum. Let's just go there for a very brief clip. Because as authoritarian and tyrannical as the Biden regime is, we still live in an almost free society here in the West. Working on that every night. Here I am, trying to restore and preserve freedom.
Thank you very much. Let me introduce my close friend, Chen Guancheng.
That's the memorial behind him there. I'll try and get you a wider shot so you can see that.
The Chinese Communist Party has never stopped using violence and cruelty to oppress the people of occupied China. After 1989, many people were exiled outside of China. For 35 years, they can only memorialize those lost in the June 4th massacre. They have no way to strike back. Meanwhile, in the 35 years after Tiananmen, the CCP had managed to use the West's high tech to create an internet surveillance system with facial recognition and movement recognition. It arbitrarily persecutes those who call for the rule of law, democracy, and constitutional government. At the same time, outside of China, the CCP had infiltrated democratic nations like America, corroding their societies and upsetting the international order. The free world must do away with its policies of appeasement towards the CCP. The priority must be ending communist authoritarian regime. The free world must stand with the Chinese people to hold the CCP accountable for its crimes. The CCP is not only destructive for the Chinese people, the CCP is humanity's public enemy number one. It is a threat to the entire world. If democratic nations continue to make agreements with the devil, not only will democracy in China be without hope, America and other democracies will find their freedoms and universal values destroyed as well. For those who recognize the evil at the heart of the CCP, do not wait to take action to eliminate this regime that is antithetical to humanity.
Okay. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about an event that I'm going to quiz you on. I'm going to go to the chat. Do any of you know how many people were killed in that pro-democracy demonstration 35 years ago? No cheating. Anybody? Anybody got an answer? Johnny says over 1,300. Johnny. Try again, John. John says 1,300. Anybody else? 1,300. We've got 1,300. 33 says Choosy. 33, huh? Come on. Anybody else? What do you think? What do you think? Johnny says 1,300. Choosy says 33. Anybody? I've got 33. I got 1,300. I've got American says 1,000,000. Lovecat says 5,300. And 30,000 said David Bird. No. Sandy Anderson, did you cheat? 10,000. That's what the estimate is, yeah. 10,000 people massacred. Hey, John, my friend. Would that constitute a genocide? How about that? In short order, 10,000 people snuffed out. Is that a genocide? What's your definition? Or is that only when it happens to one other group of people? Just wondering. 10,000. Do you remember Tank Man? Who's old enough like me to remember Tank Man? Where's Tank Man today? Nobody really knows. What happened to him? I'm pretty sure I know. This is video from 35 years ago, June 5th. This would be tomorrow now, when Tank Man stood his ground for the whole world. One man making a difference. 35 years ago. I remember. And the guy in the tank driving doesn't know what to do. Doesn't know what to do. Look at that. Well, I'll say this. In Canada, even with the Freedom Convoy, I know there was talk. People thought that they would bring tanks in. And I remember the defense minister being asked about that during the public inquiry into it afterward, but you know what they never did? They never brought in tanks. They never brought in the military like that. As heavy-handed as they were, this kind of thing did not happen. But it did in China. And quickly. 10,000 people killed. 10,000 in there. They've got him. For what? What have you done today? to serve your country and serve the cause of freedom. Are you all in for freedom anymore? Anybody with me? Anybody still want freedom? I'm beginning to wonder. Like real freedom? Like real freedom, or you want some of that? Because, there's a whole heaping helping of it just on the other side of whatever revolution it is that some people are trying to instigate. Pick your revolution. That's part of the American dream, too. The right to revolution if you have a government that isn't acting in the best interest of the people. But today, I don't even know who the good guys are anymore. That's why I'm inclined to just kind of preserve what we have, preserve the system, so that we can at least have a chance to self-correct from time to time. There's a look at the Victims of Communism Memorial in New York City. Just to give you a wide shot, for some perspective of what was there. Yeah, people are very confused these days, very confused indeed. I'll get into more of that too. And you heard that spokesperson for the museum there and the memorial talking about foreign interference. Exactly that. Talking about foreign interference. We've been hearing about it. We had a whole inquiry into it. And now there's a new report out saying that some politicians, federal members of parliament, wittingly, this is the word that they're using, wittingly cooperated with foreign interference schemes. New report from the National Security and Intelligence Committee. Their findings say that they found that some parliamentarians are witting or semi-witting participants in foreign interference. And yet, so far, the Trudeau Liberals have been dodging questions. They've been unwilling, or maybe unwilling, to reveal who those members of parliament are. No names yet. How far are we going to have to dig to get that? Who are these colluders? It seems the government knows. Interesting today that the Deputy Prime Minister, Trudeau's deputy, his right-hand lady, Chrystia Freeland, she says it's not a partisan issue. Asked about it, she was actually at a news conference to talk today about the government's new economic plan. But, of course, instead, what the focus of the scrum, the media questions that followed, was really about this issue, as it probably should be, because, what's more important than the integrity of our country and members of parliament who might actually be treasonous?
Morning. I just want to ask about the NSCOP report. My question is for Deputy Prime Minister Freeland. The report describes behavior that might constitute treason, and yet we've seen no charges. Does that concern you?
Thank you for the question. I want to start by thanking the committee and Chair David McGinty for their very serious work on this. I think that their work, the cross-party nature of that committee, the seriousness with which they have approached this, the real way that they have been fearless in putting the national interest first in this work is really exemplary and shows our parliamentarians at their best. Our government takes foreign interference extremely seriously. I think your question is an important one.
Of course it is.
The
They get a lot of money.
findings of the committee are concerning, and they should be. As the Minister of Public Safety has said, we have confidence in our law enforcement bodies to do their job. And I am glad that our government has now put forward the strongest measures of any Canadian government when it comes to foreign interference, giving our law enforcement bodies the tools to act.
Deputy Prime Minister, you said that the findings are concerning, and you have confidence in law enforcement to do the work that they have to do. I guess I would ask, doesn't the public, though, have a right to know who these parliamentarians might be, especially as we approach an election sometime soon, possibly this year, possibly more than likely next year?
Let me just say this. We take foreign interference really, really seriously, and I'm just going to speak personally for a minute. Having worked in authoritarian regimes myself, I take the fight in the world right now between democracy and dictatorship really, really seriously, and I think it's moving to a new level. And I think Canadians should not be naive about the fact that one of the objectives of authoritarians around the world is to undermine democracies. They want to make us think that democracy just doesn't work, and they want to show their own people that they should accept authoritarian leadership because democracy isn't fit for purpose in the 21st century. So I think all of us should take foreign interference really seriously. As Canadians, we should be really vigilant about defending our democracy. We should recognize this is a new time, and it's tougher. The global environment is more challenging than it has been in the past. I think the fact that we have this committee, that the committee has done such a serious job, that it has been a cross-party committee is really important and is real progress. I think the fact that we have put in place legislative tools that give us more of an ability as a country to fight foreign interference is important too. And I do really want to emphasize it needs to be law enforcement that takes the steps and takes the actions. The actual enforcement actions can't be politicized.
Marco Vigliotti, iPolitics.
Thanks. Deputy Prime Minister, the PBO yesterday said that your government...
Okay, so I think the audio might have been a little too low on that clip, so I do apologize. It's just the way that it came in on the fly. In any event, what did she do? She kind of just said a bunch of nothing, talking about democracy and saying we take foreign interference very seriously, and we have a committee that takes it very seriously, and I'm glad that everyone's taking it very seriously, and I think people should take it very seriously. And we've put some legislative tools in place to take it very seriously, and that's what we're doing. We are taking it very, very seriously. Thank you, Chrystia Freeland. Sounds like a serious response to a serious question, with a lot of questions still unanswered, like, give us the names. And I see some people in the chat talking about the WEF. WEF, WEF, WEF. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. WEF. CIA, WEF. It's just like knee-jerk reaction. WEF has its problems, to be sure, but you're looking in the wrong direction. If you go back and just listen to the evidence from the inquiry just about a month ago, They're telling you which governments are doing this to us, infiltrating us. Number one on the list, China, dumping money into our academic institutions and, more concerning, into what some people are calling Chinese police stations, I guess, if that turns out to be exactly true. There are lawsuits surrounding that. But definitely we've seen a paper trail of political money coming from China. Not the Jews. Not the Jews. China. Sorry, John. Time to wake up. And there are other countries too, a bunch of countries, but China's numero uno. That's not Chinese, by the way. I don't know how to say number one in Chinese. This is not over. This is just getting started, I think, especially heading into the next election. We'll hear more about this, and we've seen also cases of members of parliament harassed, intimidated, threatened even by foreign governments, foreign players representing governments here. We're seeing, and the influence is coming in a variety of ways. We're seeing the influence of India here in Canada now. It's not just the WEF. Gotta just, expand your vision just a little bit, folks. We've got a much bigger problem on our hands. Communo-fascism, convergence, liberal fascism, whatever you want to call it. We're going to talk about all of that tonight. But before we get into more of that, Biden has signed an executive order. This all ties together, by the way, but he's signed an executive order to tighten down, clamp down on things at the border. He's giving in to political pressure over the huge waves of illegal migrants flowing into the U.S., particularly over that U.S.-Mexico border. So he has this new executive order that will temporarily shut down asylum requests once the average number of daily encounters tops 2,500 between official ports of entry. The border is not a political issue to be weaponized, he said in a White House speech. He says the shutdown would go into effect immediately. That could mean even tonight, since that threshold has already been met. Doesn't take long. Millions of asylum seekers, immigrants, just washing over what is essentially still an open border. So senior administration officials today took a call with reporters, sort of a group scrum, and said individuals who cross the southern border unlawfully or without authorization will generally be ineligible for asylum absent exceptionally compelling circumstances unless they are accepted by the proclamation. And they say that migrants who don't meet the requirement of having a credible fear when they apply for asylum will be immediately removable, and they anticipate that we will be removing those individuals in a matter of days, if not hours, according to these government higher-ups. Will that really happen? I'm not so sure. Hot potato issue. I think he's trying to take the wind out of Trump's sails, even though they have this criminal conviction. Now that he's a convicted felon, they're still clearly afraid of him. And his lawyer, Trump's lawyer today, saying that even if he's thrown in the slammer, the election campaign, Trump's campaign to become president, will continue from his cell if necessary. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do throw him in the can on the 11th of July. Still some time to go. That's the date, right? I think so. So this is being largely a Republican issue, but now Biden just shifting his strategy. Keep your eyes on this one, man. This is quite the deal. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so got that. Let me take a quick break here. I'm going to get some more stuff queued up. We got a lot of ground yet to cover. You're not going to want to miss it.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, here in Canada, the government is taking a different approach to immigration. The effect is going to be largely the same. It has been the same or similar. But Immigration Minister Mark Miller here now announcing that foreign caregivers will be granted permanent residency on arrival in Canada, and that the government is lowering language requirements, in his words, out of fairness. So they're loosening up the borders here, not just by letting people flow in illegally, they're just making it legal. They're finding all kinds of different reasons to just say, oh, you can stay forever, just because we want to be fair. All you have to do is show up. It's unprecedented what they're doing. I can't believe it, and I do not understand the logic other than to say the government seems hell-bent on just flooding the country with as many people as they can. It's like, whole world can come.
Today I'm very pleased to announce that we are launching new pilots that will provide permanent residency status for caregivers as soon as they arrive in Canada.
Don't have to earn it, just show up.
The biggest change
Get the
coming
job.
in these new pilots will be providing a one-step immigration process. Before, caregivers first needed to get work permits and then obtain work experience before applying for permanent residency. Under the new rules, we're simplifying the process and providing them with a clear, straightforward pathway to stay and care for our loved ones. The change will notably provide more autonomy for caregivers to leave workplaces with abusive situations and seek opportunities to advance in the care sector. And Lord knows I've heard a lot of those stories, not only today, but in the past, as we've been listening and reaching out to people that have been providing that support and have been in abusive situations. I'm also pleased to share that we are lowering, out of fairness, the language requirements to Canada Language Benchmark 4 under these new PR on arrival pilots. Our aim is to strike a balance between breaking down the barriers caregivers face to get PR and selecting newcomers who will be resilient to changes in the labor market. Lowering the language requirements is a must-needed change that we've heard directly from the community on, and will align with other programs in my department, as well as provincial programs, creating better consistency and fairness for all applicants.
Well, I hope they can find a place to live, given that we have this huge housing shortage. It was just a few days ago, too, that he was talking about other measures that they're taking where they're just opening up the regulations. Don't just open up the border. You open up the border by opening up the regulations, making it much easier for new Canadians to bring their relatives over. Like, super easy. It's, I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. And I'm old. This is your fossil speaking. Oh my God, what has Canada become? I don't know. That immigration issue, though, man, that's going to be front and center in this next election. Trump talking about deporting people. Do you think that he will actually deport people? Can you imagine the scene? Rounding people up, kicking them out of the country? Like literally doing that? I don't know. Wow. What's it going to come to? That is the $1 million, the maybe $1 trillion question, right? What's it going to come to? We're getting, when for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and that's because you're getting extremes on both sides now. You have the extremes on the left and the right, except that the two are kind of coming together. And then there's little old freedom fighters or freedom people. I mean, real freedom, not fake freedom. I don't know. There's a couple of us on the other side. People should be asking themselves, what do you mean by freedom? Freedom's just, that word is just thrown around by people. Communists, fascists, conservatives, everybody uses it. But I don't know. What is it? What does it mean to you? What's the real definition? Freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of movement, freedom of expression. We're seeing just, within the last number of days, affronts, anyway, I don't know if they're actual assaults, but affronts to some media people, whether you call them journalists or not, I don't know. Alex Jones, we talked about him. He says that his operation could get shut down at any moment because the feds are coming. But I think that the truth there is that the bankruptcy proceedings have caught up with him, and he's flipping it around and pointing his finger at the government, which indirectly, I guess you could argue that's the case, but it's not so much a case of the feds, although I think they do have some sort of a court order now. In fact, let me just check that for you. I don't know what he's saying on his site tonight, but a lot of people upset about it. And he was giving one heck of a performance. Acting, I would say. And raising a whole lot of money. Seems like he's backed off on the rhetoric, though. I'm just on his page here, just checking for you. I'm not seeing... They're still up. They're still doing their thing. He's not taken down yet. He's going to need a whole lot of money to pay his Sandy Hook bill. And it's been quite a while since the verdict on that came down. $1 billion plus. But Alex seems to be doing okay still. I don't know. I just don't know if I would be. It seems to me that it's inevitable at some point they're going to shut him down because the bankruptcy proceedings are going to kick in. They're going to come for what they were going to come for. There are other ways to continue doing business. He's just trying to avoid paying anything out. But bankruptcy, man, you could just declare bankruptcy, go through the pain like all the other people out there who go through that kind of pain, team up with somebody. He still has the name. Anyway, I don't need to tell him what to do. He's got his own plan, and I think that's what he's been doing over there over the last few days, is executing some sort of a plan. Not criticizing, just observing, commenting. It is what it is. But I wouldn't take it at face value. That's what I'm saying. Now, all that being said, then we saw Scott Ritter, former UN weapons inspector, taken off a plane, passport seized yesterday. Things around that thing seem a little weird to me. I think there's more going on there than meets the eye, even more than maybe Mr. Ritter knows himself. I think we're going to just sit back and wait and see. Get more facts on that one. Not sure what the deal is. I always want facts. I want facts. I want to know what's really happening. But I have seen as well, and this is true, I've seen mainstream media outlets, I think probably prompted by arm's length government agencies, feeding information to mainstream media outlets, prompting them to go after I'd say foreign media people or foreign journalists covering foreign or international politics from more of a foreign perspective over the last week. I'm aware. I'm seeing it. Speaking to people who are seeing it. And these are journalists that you're not hearing about in the media at all, who have been targeted too. So, yeah, there's something afoot. Definitely. And then I'm seeing other stuff that is in the media. For instance, oh yes, Johnny. Since you've been sending me so much stuff, this one you should take note of, John, because this involves some of the people that you follow religiously. This from the Washington Post. Other media outlets also reporting on this information. Not 100% sure where it originates from, but the Washington Post has this. News site editors' ties to Iran, Russia, show misinformation's complexity. Experts say an overlap in funding underscores concern that the spread of falsehoods and propaganda online is entering a more complicated stage as the November election draws closer. Excuse me. What are they saying here? They're saying that a top editor at an online news site aimed at Americans, who has worked extensively for Russia's Sputnik, has also taken money from Iranian government-owned media. According to newly unearthed documents, a sign of how widening geopolitical alliances are making it harder to identify and to trace foreign influence operations. Hacked emails and other documents from the Iranian government-funded Press TV show payments of thousands of dollars to Wyatt Reed, a writer who is now a Washington-based editor for the online publication Gray Zone. In addition, the site's founder, Max Blumenthal, regularly appears on Russian television and once accepted a trip to Moscow for a celebration of Russian state-controlled video network RT that featured Vladimir Putin. Misinformation experts say the overlap in funding underscores concern that the spread of falsehoods and propaganda online is entering a more complicated stage as the United States November election draws closer. Are you getting the picture? They don't like it when you get paid by foreign governments to carry their water. Let me state unequivocally and clearly and just straight up, I don't get paid by anybody, any government. Not the government here, not a government there. No government pays me. I'm not in anybody's back pocket. The only people who support this place is you. Period. That's it. We're demonetized on YouTube. We're banned on Facebook. Banned. Therefore, no moolah from Facebook for this place. No Rolls-Royce, no Alex Jones style transportation for this journalist. Yeah. Free trips. I can't imagine why they would be upset with somebody. Why would they be concerned? Well, they don't like what you're saying, man. Because, that's the thing, too. That's the thing I keep saying. What's a journalist? What is a journalist? Seems these days, a journalist is anybody that wants protection from the government by saying that they have a right to their journalistic free speech. I think everybody, a lot of people should have, what's a journalist? It's a vague thing, isn't it? But I think some people are hiding behind that title. I think it puts all journalism at risk, honestly. It diminishes the craft, the integrity of it. Makes everyone who's a journalist then suspect. I don't like it. If you're going to be a journalist, practice journalism. That comes in different forms. You can be a filmmaker and be a journalist. You can be a radio producer and commentator and be a journalist. You can do a lot of things, and that constitutes journalism. But, I think ethically, to be a journalist, you need to be acting in at least good faith and not just be a propagandist for some government, either your government or anybody else's government. You need some autonomy, some arm's length freedom to report truth, or at least truth as close as you can get it given your worldview and bias. I don't like to see anybody censored or deplatformed. I don't think that's the answer either. People should have their right to free speech. I'm just saying that I think a journalism, it has to come from a place of good faith. Otherwise, you are not a journalist. And it disturbs me to see people abusing the title when they're nothing of the sort quite often. We could talk about that more another night. Where do I want to go from here? Let me see what's on my list. Okay, we talked about that. Oh, the Epoch Times. So on the other side, or the other end, I guess, of the political spectrum, and this shows you that, I'm open to covering things across the spectrum. Epoch Times, I guess it was their accountant. Let me see if I can get the notes here. Charged with financial crimes, huge amounts of money involved. Now, the Epoch Times is not named in this legal proceeding. Where did my notes go? Let me take a little break here. I'll get the info and we'll have it for you on the other side. A lot of stuff here, so I need just a moment.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
The financial head of Epoch Times, that's the guy who's facing money laundering charges, identified as a $67 million U.S. scheme to benefit both himself and the Epoch Times. This coming from the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, who alleges Weidong Guan, also known as Bill Guan, has conspired with other people in what he is being called a sprawling transnational scheme to, quote, benefit himself, the media company, and its affiliates. So some financial records have been revealed, and the 61-year-old from New Jersey is charged with one count of conspiring to commit money laundering. It carries a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison, and also he's facing 2 counts of bank fraud. They both carry a maximum sentence of 30 years. The Epoch Times has issued a statement saying that Guan is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and has indicated that the company will cooperate with any investigation into the allegations against Guan, but they have said that he has been suspended now until the matter is resolved. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. The annual revenue of Epoch Times, I guess, jumped from about $15 million US between, I think it was like 20, what was it? Over the space of a couple of years. From 15 million to about $62 million. Actually, I think just over 1 year, year and a half. The company itself is not named in the lawsuit. But he is, and this will have a direct impact, I think, on the company and its financial stability. We'll see. Again, another assault on a media company. Make of it what you will. Also, it was maybe a week and a half ago, Al Jazeera banned in Israel. The reason given? That they were sending information to Hamas. That's the allegation, that they were sending information to Hamas through the media outlet. $67 million. So I guess they had some elaborate scheme, according to the charges involving Epoch Times, where they were somehow accessing illegally obtained funds and then flowing them into the company and hiding the money on like prepaid credit cards in smaller denominations, smaller amounts. Something like that. It sounds kind of complicated. True? Don't know. The thing about the Epoch Times is, they are anti-Communist Party of China. They are pro-freedom. I'd say very pro-American. Sort of on the opposite end of the political spectrum from the gray zone. So you have, which is very communo-fascistic, progressive, certainly that. Anti-Israel, definitely, 100%. But yeah, it just shows you that the whole information war is ramping up, and that's in advance of the presidential election, the election in Canada that will probably be held in a year or so, and then the wars. So, first casualty of truth and of war is truth. There is truth in that. Where do we go from here? Well, Israel, northern Israel, on fire. This is not getting a lot of media play tonight, but I'll tell you, this is, I would say, a major development. You can expect to hear more about this in a major way in the days ahead. This escalates the tension, the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. Israel is burning. This is inside Israel. And these kinds of images, this incident, this attack, this new attack is just resulting in more calls from Israelis to, at least on the one side, to double, triple, quadruple down and ramp up the efforts to not only clear out Hamas, but to expand the conflict, expand the Israeli operation to target Hezbollah and fight a war on two fronts. All this happening, I would say it's a provocation. Of course it is. Because even though this is happening against the backdrop of Biden's peace deal, it's I don't think they want peace. I don't think so at all. Here's that whole thing with Biden. It's I didn't put much hope in it from the beginning, and as more has as I've been able to learn more about it, I'm seeing that he's just playing politics and really kind of pretending to be Israel's friend when he's kind of not. And while I think he's trying to play both sides in order to score points, win votes, I think in the end, he's just pissing everybody off. Let's take a look at, just review a little bit of what Biden had to say a couple of days ago when he announced his grand peace plan, which I think he is hoping will paint him in a positive light with voters, like he's the savior of the Middle East. This could be his moment to bring peace. But the whole thing is a disaster. It was a disaster as soon as he opened his mouth.
In Gaza, without Hamas in power, and sets the stage for a political settlement that provides a better future for Israelis and Palestinians alike. Now, after intensive diplomacy carried out by my team, my many conversations with leaders of Israel, Qatar, and Egypt, and other Middle Eastern countries, Israel has offered a comprehensive new proposal. It's a roadmap to an enduring ceasefire and the release of all hostages. This proposal has been transmitted by Qatar to Hamas. Today, I want to lay out its terms.
Okay. So, since then, it has become painfully obvious that this was not an offer that came from Israel. He's lying. It's not. It never came from Israel. And it has also become painfully clear that the proposal, this peace offer, is almost a carbon copy of what Hamas offered up a couple of weeks before. And then Biden stands up at the podium, regurgitates it, calls it sort of Israel's, something that Israel came up with. And it clearly isn't. And Netanyahu has made it clear now that he's rejecting it. Why would they reject their own deal? Because it's not their deal. Never was. And now they've sort of painted Israel into a corner so that, what Biden's done here is he's taken a Hamas offer, repackaged it, sort of put his little stamp of approval on it, and then tried to box in Israel by saying that it was Israel's idea. And then Netanyahu is like, no, our objectives haven't changed. And the wording that Biden used, which seemed odd to me even the first day, is now proving to be extremely problematic. He's saying things like Hamas can't return to power. Well, Hamas is still there. So they haven't really left power, other than to say that amid the fighting, everything is non-functional, I think, from a government standpoint, other than the fact that you have military in place in Gaza. So it's just a disaster in there, and a humanitarian disaster, for sure. But not an Israeli deal. Made a few notes here. Maybe I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Yeah, and then, the deal would be that the United States would sort of provide oversight for Israel, make sure that they live up to their end of the bargain, and Hamas would be overseen by Egypt and Qatar. But they're pro-Palestinian, so pro-Hamas. So I don't know how much policing you're going to get there. This puts a lot of pressure on Israel, and it casts them again in a very negative light internationally. I would say this is a disaster of Biden's making again. This is a non-starter. And just in terms of public optics, Israel looks bad again. Not good. This was stupid of Biden to do this, I think, because it just makes things worse. It's not a genuine offer. It's not a genuine plan. It's a bunch of BS. He's just trying to appease the Jewish vote at home, the pro-Israel vote, while at the same time trying to suck up to the Muslims and the pro-Palestinian side, especially in places like Dearborn in Michigan. We have a huge Muslim voting base. He's trying to play both sides. He's playing politics. And when you're the president and you have an issue this serious, it's irresponsible to do that because so many lives hang in the balance. But you know what? He doesn't care. He does not care. Pretty disgusting. It's just a play on words. Well, yes, the other thing, too, he another interesting play on words. You really have to listen to him. But he refers to the hostages as prisoners. That's interesting, isn't it? They're still hostages. But they're not prisoners. There's not like, they committed a crime and they were taken into custody and now they're prisoners, or, it's not like they're even political prisoners. I guess you could say they're prisoners, but no, they're hostages. They're just civilians who were taken for no other reason than as collateral. And they're just more and more bodies turning up. I don't even know if there are any still alive, frankly. I'd be surprised if any still are. And it's becoming painfully clear, too, that, you know what? Biden doesn't want Netanyahu in there. He wants Netanyahu gone. I think he would like to, he'd like to get rid of that. I guess you could say conservative or right-wing Netanyahu government and replace it with something more progressive, more in fitting with the Democrat worldview, shall we say. Now, from here, let's just shift over to Ukraine for a moment, because Ukraine has now offered an indication that it has been using, or it has used now, Western weapons to strike inside Russia. Of course, while Donald Trump was being convicted, Biden gave Ukraine the green light to go ahead and use U.S. weapons to strike inside Russia, to hit targets where missiles or rockets are being launched against Russia from Russian positions. Now, a senior Ukrainian official has hinted that Kyiv has hit a missile system inside Russia using Western weapons. Will this result in more escalation? Possibly World War III kinetically? Maybe a nuclear response? A lot of saber rattling, a lot of talk in this regard from pundits and diplomats. Threats. I've been saying before, though, this for Russia, this is more of a problem, I think, than they might let on. Obviously, a big concern for them because, we keep hearing how Russia, and I don't mean this. This is just my analysis. This is war. So the information we're getting, only semi-reliable at the best of times. But it seems to me if you have now a situation where targets inside Russia proper are being hit, is that winning? I don't think so. I don't think Russia is necessarily winning in Ukraine. I think they've gained some ground. I think that it's gone back and forth a little bit this way and then a little bit that way. And I think from what I'm seeing, my analysis, for what it's worth, the delay in the funding, which took about 6 months, cost Ukraine. I think they lost ground because they didn't have enough ammunition and resources. It probably cost them a lot of lives as a result because of those delays. Because Trump, Republicans, key Republicans, tied the funding to the situation at the border, and it just delayed everything before they could get approval. Now it's in place, though, and now they have approval to strike targets in Russia. All I'm saying is, while we hear these claims that Russia is about to just roll over Ukraine and just the war's going to be over with, I don't think so. I think it's dragging on. I think it's changing in nature from all the information that I'm getting from different places. I think you're getting more guerrilla warfare. There's evidence that you may have Ukrainians right inside Russia proper as sabotage units now. It's my information from Russia indicates that Kevin sent information to me yesterday saying that some Ukrainians had been caught with explosives inside Russia. And I said weeks ago that because of the delay in the funding and the delay in sending more supplies, Ukraine won't quit. They'll just change tactics. That means more guerrilla warfare instead of head-on conflict and launching rockets at each other. And I think that's what it's just changing. The nature of the battle is changing. And we're in a very dangerous place, indeed. And why is that? I'll say this too. People sending me crap from crap sources. And then last night I heard from one of these, I won't tell you which one, not one of the biggest ones, but another channel where two guys are sitting there yakking and they're talking about the F-16s. And there's so much information out there that only gives you half of the perspective, and it's because whatever channel it is you're watching, they're in the bag for one side or the other. So when they're talking about these F-16s, they're just giving you the Russian perspective, the Russian narrative. Fair enough, I guess, but that narrative is that Ukraine if they get the F-16s, that's a nuclear provocation because those jets can be equipped or are capable of carrying nuclear weapons. And that, as I heard on this live stream, is a violation of Ukraine's nuclear doctrine. But that's only half the story. And so when I say that, with a lot of these sites, you're only getting one side of the perspective or the other. I understand that it's a violation of the nuclear doctrine, which is to say that Ukraine, back in in the early 90s, 1990, agreed that they wouldn't have nuclear weapons anymore. See, after the fall of the Soviet Union, Ukraine had nukes because they used to be part of the Soviet Union. So they had nukes stationed inside Ukraine. But when Ukraine gained its independence, as many of those Soviet bloc countries did, they agreed to give up the nukes. They said, no, we won't have nukes anymore. There won't be any nukes on Russia's front doorstep. We'll give them up. But so now they're saying that if they get the F-16s, or if they bring in tactical nuclear weapons or nukes of any kind, that's a violation of their nuclear doctrine. Oh, well, that sounds terrible, and Russia's, entirely justified then in doing whatever. Well, that's only part of the story. That's only half. There's plenty of blame to go around here, folks. The other side of the story is that they're not. I think that these people, honestly, aren't even aware of what I'm about to tell you. But in 1990, you had the Budapest Memorandum. Yeah, Ukraine agreed to give up the nukes, but in exchange, they got a guarantee that Russia would not violate Ukraine's borders. Period. The United States also agreed to not violate Ukraine's borders. Period. And then in 2014, there was a meeting because, of course, everything was volatile, blowing up, right? Civil war, essentially. And then the Maidan massacre and all of that led eventually to what we have today, this war or special military operation. Russia wouldn't participate in the talks to talk about the Budapest Memorandum because Russia said that the government of Ukraine was no longer legitimate because their guy had been turfed. And now you had a new guy in there who was viewed as being an American puppet. So they're saying, no, don't have to listen, not valid anymore, not going to talk about it. So there is that aspect to it. So it's a different perspective. Yeah, no nukes, but you don't come in and invade the country. You don't come in here. And then we stay a sovereign state without the need for the nukes. See, if they had the nukes, then it would be a whole different power balance, wouldn't it, today? And so I know that even years ago, some Ukrainian officials were sorrowful. They had some regrets about giving up those weapons and the ability to possess them because it creates a different power balance. Indeed, it becomes kind of a Cuban Missile Crisis in itself, doesn't it? Especially if it becomes a NATO country. And so now there's another argument to be had here, and I think that the West isn't even saying this because this could be provocation on its own. I'm going to say it out loud, though. I think that what is going on here is, I think that both sides are playing a very dangerous game, and I think that this rhetoric coming from Russia is also extremely dangerous. Because this, if you flip it around and look at it from the other perspective to get a fuller picture, this opens the door to Ukraine having nukes. Because if Russia has gone in there in a military operation inside the Ukrainian border, that violates the Budapest Memorandum. what's to say that Ukraine now is obligated to abide by it at all? So these F-16s, even though they may not be equipped with nukes, even if they equip them, what are they violating? What agreement? The agreement's null and void. There is no agreement, I guess, anymore. So they can have nukes. And indeed, that seems to be where we're going, because you have Russia rattling its nuclear saber. They went and had their drills, their training exercises, publicized that. There's been talk of, at least one Russian official coming out and making a statement saying, well, I think we should, detonate a nuclear warhead just to demonstrate the strength that we have, which could scare the crap out of people for sure, just as a demonstration. But that's a lot of rhetoric, more ramping up. On the other side, you have the Americans. They've had nuclear drills now. Today, I'm hearing more talk on the Russian side, the pro-Russian side, indicating even from Mr. Lavrov himself that the Russia is, considering looking at using nukes if necessary. This is not good. And so I would say that just by going in with the special military operation and refusing to even talk about the Budapest Memorandum, which made sure that Ukraine didn't have nukes on Russia's doorstep, and it guaranteed that Ukraine would have its sovereign independence. That's all blown out now. And now we have nuclear instability on our hands. And if Ukraine had those nukes, you would have had a balance of power. You would have had mutually assured destruction. And at that point, maybe the invasion, or if you want to call it that, or the special military operation, if you want to call it that, maybe none of this would have happened. A balance of power. But if you have an imbalance, it creates a vacuum sometimes. And I know that Russia felt threatened. They saw NATO expansionism as an existential threat to the country. But I'll say this, as far as I know, just because Ronald Reagan made a promise to Gorbachev saying that NATO wouldn't expand eastward, that's not a treaty. That's words. And those states that became independent after the fall of the Soviet Union do technically and legally have a right to self-determination. Poland being another country like that. So Russia might not like it any more than the United States likes having Cuba on its doorstep. The world is an uncomfortable place. We have to learn to get along. This is the reality, and this is why people are so confused. This is why, you only get one half of the story. You only have one half of the perspective. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about understanding the situation and finding the right path forward, because there can be two truths. And I don't mean to say that in a flippant way, but it depends on your perspective and what your values are, and, where your allegiances lie, where your home is, what it means to you, and how you perceive the other side and what they're doing to you and how they view what you're doing to them and what's fair. It becomes complicated because truth is not always black and white. Life is about shades of gray. So too is the situation with politics and war. I'll be back in a moment. Lots more ahead.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back. Biden, what a knucklehead he is, I'll tell you. He really puts his foot in it. So I think he's done this on purpose, actually. Headline today. This is actually from an interview, I believe, with Time Magazine that's being reported on now. So the interview was done days ago, even before this peace deal was tabled. But look at the headline. Biden says every reason to believe Netanyahu is prolonging the war for political gain. Just reinforces what I said. He doesn't want Netanyahu in there. He wants him gone. He made the comment in an interview last week, it says here, on the NBC website, several days before he announced that Israel had offered a three-part plan to end the war in Gaza. But here it is, headline front and center today. He thinks the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is prolonging Israel's war against Hamas and Gaza for political gain. Yeah, screw the lives. I'm sure that's all it is, Joe. He says, I'm not going to comment on that. When asked about prolonging the conflict for self-preservation by time, he says, there is every reason for people to draw that conclusion, though, he says. What an inflammatory statement that is. Does that not throw Israel right under the bus and Netanyahu? So it's an internal domestic debate that seems to have no consequence, he says. And whether he would change his position or not, it's hard to say, but it has not been helpful. This is Israel's greatest ally. Jesus. Oh my God. Biden. He is a disaster. He's got to go. He's just making everything worse. That makes everything worse. That gives Netanyahu and Israel very little wiggle room and inflames things and puts more pressure on Netanyahu back home politically, but not in a good way. That's not diplomatic. That's taking a stick and poking Netanyahu right in the eye. And that's not good. Now, you could say, and I have said, that the United States should rein in Israel, and that I think that the way they went in there was a big mistake. But you don't do it like that. You have to exercise some actual diplomacy and do things in back channels and then come out with a diplomatic front. Not this. This is bad news, man. Why would he do something like that? Because he's an idiot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Bad, bad, bad. The whole situation in Israel, very, very bad. Okay, where are we going to go from here now? Well, as I said, fires in northern Israel are fueling demands to tackle escalation with Hezbollah. That's another reason why poking Netanyahu in the eye, not good. Because now they have much of northern Israel on fire after Hezbollah rocket attacks. They've sparked days of bushfires in northern Israel. I mean, you talk about the bushfires, the forest fires, the wildfires here in Canada. Well, they're running wild now in northern Israel as well. Looks like fire being used as something of a weapon, with patches of scorched earth starting to appear all over, about an hour out from the Lebanon border. Residents in that locality, in the largely deserted northern communities now, have been battling scattered fires for several weeks, and people are getting fed up. And they want the government to do something. They're putting pressure on Netanyahu to respond. I showed you the video of what it looks like there. And that Biden's playing a dangerous game. And now here's, okay, this is about the crap that's been sent to me overnight too. Let me just check the chat here and see who's in there. So, how do I start with this? So it was sent to me. Again, more stuff sent to me overnight. And this stuff related to what's going on in Gaza. And it's about war crimes, okay? And this is what I'm talking about, the information war. It relates specifically to this, and I even hate to give this much play here, but I'll do it, because Johnny sent me this. And John, I love you, man, but wow. Where is your head, man? He says, look at all the war crimes, Rick, because he keeps trying to convince me that my position on everything is wrong. So I looked at it. I always try to keep an open mind. But I don't know, man. Maybe I should call John. Talk to him about it. Let's talk to, let me just see here. Okay. Just checking some messages here. All right. So, all right. 42 war crimes. That's the allegation. 42. So John sent me this and he's like, oh, see, look, Israel guilty of 42 genocide, 42 war crimes. They're terrible human beings. All right, so I'm going to play this little clip from this guy's show, Mr. Blondie here. Here we go.
Some more specifics on that I'm going to share with you. Here's what they've been doing. Stripping male and female detainees of their clothing. Blackmail for recruitment purposes. Frequent strip searches. Insults and profanity. Holding naked detainees together. Spitting and urinating on them. Keeping hands and feet tied for prolonged periods of time. By the way, that has led to a number of amputations because they're cutting off the circulation and they have to cut off hands and feet.
Really? Really, eh?
Only democracy in the Middle East. Depriving them their right to identity and identifying them only as numbers. Where did I hear that one before? Blindfolding them for very long periods of time. Removing women's veils. Willful killing, murder under torture. Verbal sexual violence. Brutal beatings that shattered teeth and bones. Sexual violence by touching private parts. Electric shocks. Threatening indecent assault and rape. Severe beatings. Deprivation of food and water. Throwing stun grenades at them. Sleep deprivation. Pouring hot liquids on their faces. Denial of medical care. Producing severe scars on the body. Dressing detainees in diapers. Marking offensive words on their bodies. Refusal to let them shower. Lengthy interrogations. Long-term deprivation of personal hygiene supplies. Questioning by multiple investigating parties. Denying female detainees sanitary pads. Imposing extended periods of time sitting on knees. Preventing the performance of religious rituals. Forcing them to sleep on gravel and or iron surfaces. Attacking them with vicious dogs. Forcing them to sleep on dog droppings. Inviting Israeli officials and civilians to witness torture operations. Subjecting them to loud noises. Photographing them in humiliating situations. holding them in cold environments without adequate clothing. A number of people died when the U.S. did that, by the way, during the Iraq War. Denying them contact with the external world, threatening to commit crimes against detainees and their family members. Forced disappearances. So, these are the 42 different versions of torture that have been done.
I'm on the air, John, and as I'm sure you're watching, so I thought I'd call you because you sent me this thing, so I want to talk to you about it.
This guy is great.
Is he really? John, so here's my question for you. So, yeah, so, I see who he is. Where's the proof?
Is he really? John, so here's my question for you.
Where's this guy's proof? I'm looking for it. Can you help me out here with proof on any of these 42 allegations?
I can smell bullshit, and this guy doesn't shoot too
Okay,
much
so you just believe him because. So where's the proof for this guy who, what's this guy's, oh yeah, Secular Talk is this guy, Mr. Blondie here.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Oh yeah, great. I love his hair. Love his hair, Mr. Secular there. Where's the proof, John? Where's the proof?
Do you want me to send you the proof?
Well, I'm listening to him. I'm not hearing any proof. I hear allegations. What's the source?
I sent you other stuff yesterday.
No. We're talking about this right now. I don't know. I want to talk about this because this is the big one. This is the war crimes, right? So, where's the proof? Okay, you don't have any proof. What about the source?
I do have proof.
You got proof. You got proof.
I have to dig it back up and I'll send it to you.
Okay, you send me that proof. But in the meantime, I don't have any, and he didn't offer up any in his video.
It's not from him, by the way. It's from another source.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll get this. I can send it to you from.
I've got it. I know where it came from. I know exactly where it came from. It came from. Oh, what's it called here? Euromed. Here it is. Hang on. I've got it cute. Here it is. Euromed Human Rights Monitor. A human rights organization.
Oh yeah. That's where it came from.
Right.
It came from.
He mentions them. He mentions them specifically.
Who does all the? Who's in there right now in Gaza? There, that's feeding all the people. What do you call those guys again? Not UNICEF. What do you call those guys?
No. He cites this.
No. But who are those guys feeding the people? What are they called again?
Yeah, there's sort of their own version of the Red Cross. They're connected to Hamas.
No. The other one.
I don't know.
What are they called? The big boys in there. Anyways, that's where it came from.
It comes from. He specifically says in the video, and I can play you the clip. But I don't need to because he says it, and I know this to be true because I listened to it that you sent to me. It comes from Euromed Human Rights Monitor. That's his source, and that's who put out this information. And that's what he says. That's his source. Right here. Did you not watch the video?
Yeah, I've seen that video twice.
Yeah, okay, so you watched it twice, and so, yes, that's the source, Euromed Human Rights Monitor. What is Euromed Human Rights Monitor?
No.
Yeah.
I've seen it on a different source. I don't even know what source you're talking about.
Well, that's what it is, John.
Who's that? They're in there right now in Gaza trying to feed the people there. What do you call those guys?
Well, I don't know who you're referring to specifically.
I'm trying to find it on the internet. My mind, I got too much stuff in my head. And
Euromed Human Rights. That's you can't deny that the guy specifically identifies Euromed Human Rights Monitor as the source for his story. That's where he got it.
That's where I got it. I got it from a different source.
No, that's where he got it. I'm talking about the video that you sent me.
Yeah.
So what is it? Do you know? I'll tell you.
What?
Do you even... Okay, so this... I'm going to help you out here a little bit.
All right.
Euromed Human Rights Monitor is an NGO. It's a non-governmental organization. They claim to be nonprofit and it's youth-led human rights group. When you look at the website, I'm like, what is this about? It's all about human rights, human rights. And then they have a lot of stories on here, all of them anti-Israel, pro-Palestine, which raises a red flag for me. But I guess maybe if you blame everything on the Jews.
UN, there you go. Go to the
United
UN
Nations.
website. You'll get it there. That's where I got it. UN, the UN.
Well, I'm talking about this guy's video right now that you
It's
sent
the same
me.
one. That list. That's where I seen it on the UN. UN website.
Well, I'm telling you that this guy specific. Okay, look, the guy specific.
got it from the UN
Do you want me to
website.
run? Do you want me to run the clip of this guy telling you where the source is? Because this is probably the organization that's feeding it into the UN. Because they're an NGO.
Oh, maybe.
Could be. But anyway, this is what the guy identifies as the source for the story. I'm telling you that it's a fact. Well, what is this? They're an NGO. Who are they? Well, who are they funded by? Well, here's NGO Monitor.
Listen, Rick, you don't have to believe it, but I believe it. It's like.
But
nothing ever happened there. They play tiddlywinks.
But I'm trying to help you out here, John.
Torture, man. That's what they do.
Where's the proof, John? Give me the proof. They've offered zero proof. I saw.
I've seen it
no
on
proof.
Jazeera. I've seen it on the UN.
Al Jazeera.
I've seen it on this guy's website.
This guy's website. This guy here is citing Euromed, Human Rights Monitor. Who are they? You know where they get their funding, John? Hamas. Hamas. Here's NGO Monitor. They get their funding from Hamas. Who else? Who's the head of who is the head of Euromed Human Rights Monitor?
I don't even know that group. I don't follow them.
Well, this is the source for your story. This is your proof. Okay? It's Richard Falk. Who's Richard Falk?
I'll go back on the UN website and I'll send you that one, and then you can.
I'm walking you through it here right now. This is the proof. This is who's Richard Falk. He's a professor from Princeton.
What? A professor?
Richard Anderson Falk.
They lie?
Professor Emeritus, International Law, Princeton University.
This secular talk guy, he's good. He's good.
He's fantastic. Yeah, he's very progressive, extremely, very left-wing. Extremely left-wing. So far left, he's right.
He is left-wing.
He's a communo-fascist. That's what he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, got nothing to do with freedom, I'll tell you that. I'm talking about the guy who's at the head of the organization that is providing no proof, just allegations of these 42 instances of torture. And you know what, John? I will give you this. I think that there have been bad things on both sides.
Yes.
Okay, I agree with that. But here's the thing. This guy with Mr. Secular Super Blondie there, okay, he's so biased that there's no balance, and I think he just hates Jews. And I'll tell you, as I listened to enough of him that I got nauseous.
Jews, I hate Zionists.
Yeah, that's a polite way of saying the same thing these days.
Well, I hate those military monsters in Israel. Okay.
So let me help clue you in a little bit. Okay. You know who Mr. Falk is? What he's all about? Falk is you hate the WEF, right?
For sure.
Right. You don't like globalism, right?
No.
Of course not. So let me tell you who Mr. Falk is. Mr. Falk is pro-Palestinian he's a Jew, but he is basically an atheist. So he's one of these, self-flagellating Jews who really claims his Jewishness as sort of a shield. Yeah. And then he's a former advisory board member for the World Federalist Institute and the American Movement for World Government.
And he's a Jew.
Are you cluing in, John?
Is he a Jew?
Well, he's not. I wouldn't say that he's a practicing Jew. He classifies himself as an American Jew. So he was born in the United States,
So
I
why
guess.
wouldn't you take the Palestinian side?
Because
I don't
they're secular. Because they've given up their religion. They don't believe in God. He's an atheist. So his religion, his Jewish heritage doesn't mean anything to him. But he'll say he's Jew to score the points, to get, his place on the identity politics hierarchy ladder, his status, you see? That's why. And then he sides with the Palestinian side because he's a freaking communist, is what he is. And that's what you have going on right now, is a convergence between communism and fascism, Islamofascism. And they are both involved in destabilizing things on a global level and instituting what has always been the communist dream, which is a one world communist Marxist government. That's what we are experiencing right now. We're under attack. And this guy that you're not really even aware of is the man sort of manipulating things behind the scenes through this NGO that's putting out this propaganda that's finding its way through to the UN and then through videos through Mr. Blondie's Secular Talk video channel. I mean, just look at the name, John. Secular Talk? That's not about freedom, man. Well, it kind of could be, but it isn't. This guy also, his early thinking, Mr. Falk, his early thinking was influenced by the readings of Karl Marx, Herbert Marcuse, C. Wright Mills. He's a communist.
Rick, I got a mind.
Yeah?
And I disagree everything that those Zionists in Israel are doing to the Palestinians. I've seen.
Temper it with the fact that you're seeing a lot of this through the lens of propaganda, though, John. And keep in mind.
Drawings,
and let me.
Drawings. What do you want to turn Gaza into? I've seen it all.
Yeah.
All the engineering drawings. I've seen it all. Who's that? Someone's here. Yeah. So,
1979, Mr. Falk went to hang out with the Ayatollah Khomeini.
Is that mine? Thanks. Sorry.
Do you remember what happened? Yeah, Khomeini. In 79. You know what happened in 79?
No.
The Iranian Revolution. When the Shah fell. I'm
happy that you like this war going on.
I don't like the war going on. I want it to stop. Also, Mr. Falk. Mr. Falk also.
Yahoo there, Netanyahu wiping out these kids
and
women
Mr. Falk also.
I'm happy with that, but I'm not happy with that.
Yeah.
I can see the destruction, Rick. I can see.
Yeah, I see the destruction too, John. I see the destruction of people's minds.
I see the body count.
And I see people's. I see people full of hate now and division.
I'm a kind guy.
Yeah.
I love life.
Me too.
And I love people, but I wouldn't hurt a fly. But this is gone. This is not a war, Rick. It's genocide. They want these people out. They want the land.
Yeah. You know what, John? They're using these people. You're not seeing the broader picture, the bigger picture. And you're still not seeing that it's Hamas that has used these people as pawns and thrown them in front of the fire.
Do you know how Hamas got in there? They elected them. The people, and you know why they elected Hamas? Is to make Palestine free. Right now, it's an open-air prison.
Yeah, that's a cliche, John. That's a cliche. The open-air prison, right? Like that's for the weak-minded who are susceptible to propaganda. That's just marketing. That's a catchphrase.
Like those Jews, every so often they mow the lawn. You ever heard that expression, mow the lawn?
Oh, I've heard it. I know. I know. I know.
And they mow the lawn. They show who's
So you're not interested in where this information came from. You're not interested in proof. You haven't seen any proof of this torture.
I've seen it on the UN. I'll send it to you from the UN.
Yeah, I saw that shit too. Yeah, and I know, and now, I'm showing you what the source is, and there's no proof.
Well, I've seen
the amputations of the hands. I saw that. I saw no proof of any amputations necessary because they used zip ties on people when they were taking them in.
I've seen those Israel military
The
guys.
truth is somewhere in the middle, man. Like I'm telling
I heard
you.
them say that we'll sick the dogs on them.
Yeah.
In prison, if they don't tell us, we'll sick the dogs on them. You don't understand how.
Oh, I understand, John. I really do. I understand the larger geopolitical scene, and I understand.
Are not treated right. Okay, these people are being abused.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they're in the middle of the middle of a hot war.
Since 1948.
They're in the middle of a hot war, and Hamas has prevented many of them from leaving, so that they stay in the line of fire, and they use them as human shields, and they martyr them.
That's why they hired Hamas.
And that's why you see online streamers glorifying the violence in videos. And I won't show here, but they're showing over there. That's why they want to show all the death. They want to show that. See, that's their weapon. That's the weapon. It's an information war. They understand the information war.
See all those Trump guys today on the news?
Which Trump guys?
They're violent. They want to destroy because Trump's going to jail. And they said, if he goes to jail, we're going to destroy everything. Bob, they're so violent.
Yeah, that's the danger, you see, because here, domestically, here, we're getting destabilization, and it is connected to everything going on over there. And because of that, we are getting convergence, and we're getting, so, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And because of the extreme politics that we're getting on, like the Biden government side here, and although that's related to what's going on over there, you're going to end up with extreme, probably fascistic government over here. So it's this, that's the polarization. I get it. I totally get it. And I'm gonna as the show goes on here, I'm gonna explain more about that. I'll lay it all out, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. I love you, man. I really do.
I love you too, and I enjoy your show.
Yeah.
And lately, you've been coming around a little bit more, and you have a little more sympathy towards the Gazan people.
I always had sympathy for them.
Before you used to, the way you looked at it, you just wanted them all gone.
I never said that. Not even one time. Never. Never did I say that. You go back. I challenge you. You go back. All my episodes are up. You go back. You find me saying that even one time. You will not. You go find me a clip of me saying what you just said, and I will eat crow right here.
Lately,
Never said that.
Saying there's wrong on both sides.
I said that from the beginning. You go ask Kevin. Kevin's been on. We've talked about it a lot. I've always taken that position.
I agree with that. There's wrong on both sides.
I said from the beginning. You know the other thing, John? Right from the beginning. This was immediate. The first time I saw the allegations of the beheaded babies on October 7th, the minute I saw that, I said, that's propaganda. I did.
I don't remember.
You maybe didn't see it because I'm on 3 hours, right?
Talking about it, and you were disgusted, and you were taken by that, and that was like you got.
I said that's propaganda.
You got bullet holes on top of the
Immediately,
cars.
I said that was propaganda because that was a reporter who started that. It was a female reporter. I don't remember which outlet she was with, but I said no, that's propaganda.
October 7th, when the Palestinians went in. They had no planes. They had motorcycles, okay, and trucks, whatever. But they had no planes. There's bullets on top of cars.
Yeah.
Killing all these Jewish
people.
No.
You see, that's the thing. It's like, the IDF did use helicopters, but
and they lie.
No.
You ever caught the Jews in a lie?
You know, I do. A lot of people lie about a lot of things, especially in war. And I'll tell you this: the jihadists use, and it's documented that they use lying as a tool, in very much, and they view it very much in the same way as courage or valor, in order to vanquish an enemy.
That Yahoo guy, how many times has he lied? They never fact-checked the guy. Why?
What do you mean?
Bullshitter.
Everybody fact-checked him.
He gets away with it.
I don't know.
He's like a god. He's a fucking antichrist there, Rick. I'm telling you, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I keep showing you proof. Like, I don't just see, but but the thing is, gosh, John, like, when I challenge you and give you like actual evidence that you can actually see, or I give you facts, I show you stuff, then your response when you don't have an argument back is you say, well, I just don't believe it. I don't trust the Jews. That's not an argument.
I trust the Jews. The Jews are honest people. I work with a lot of Jews. They're honest people. Mm-hmm. They pay their bills on time. They're good.
Yeah.
To work with. They're very, very, very kind.
Yeah.
But it's this guy, Yahoo, and his mob behind him. These are the evil dirt of the world. Okay, these are the ones. It's like Putin.
Well, I
like Putin. I like Putin. He's a good guy. He's a good man. He's one of the best presidents in the world. But you know
he's a strong leader. He is that.
He is. He's beautiful. He's strong. He's good. He's good for the people. But the people painted him as an evil dictator, and he's not.
Isn't he? Okay. I mean, look, I don't think it's that simple.
Ritter's right about him.
What's that?
That's why Ritter can't go there, because he was going to go there and expose the lies.
Well, I want to. Well, that's a whole other. That's a whole other topic. That's a whole other topic.
That's why they took Ritter's passport.
Well, we don't know why they took Ritter's passport. I'm waiting for facts.
I'm telling you why.
You don't know. You don't know any more than I do. All we know is what we've seen and what we reported last night.
Go there for a month.
I know what he was doing over there, and that's fine. It's all cool. But we don't know. There's something weird going on around all of that stuff.
Well,
but there are other people. There are other people who are going over there, and they're not having problems, and they're in much the same, I would say, vein of activity as Scott Ritter, and they're getting through. What's different about him?
You don't think Russia could have wiped out all of Ukraine by now if they wanted to? They're being easy. They don't want to hurt civilians. They don't want to hurt the people.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that it's that simple either, because if you just go in and there's pushback on both sides. So talking about lying, okay? This is from. Hang on, let me speak. Talking about lying, okay? The Middle East Forum. This is from a couple of years ago, but this is from a study and a document from the Middle East Forum, and they released a report discussing taqiyya, deception, directed toward non-Muslims. And according to the report, Sunni Muslims waged jihad against the realm of unbelief, and it is here that they have deployed taqiyya, not as dissimulation, but as active deceit. In fact, it says here, deceit, which is doctrinally grounded in Islam, is often depicted as being equalis, sometimes superior to other universal military virtues such as courage, fortitude, and self-sacrifice. Islamist leaders such as Osama bin Laden have used taqiyya to justify their lies. For instance, when addressing Western audiences, Islamist leaders claim to be waging war on the West due to grievances ranging from foreign presence in Saudi Arabia to the United States' failure to ratify the Kyoto Protocol. The truth is that the conflict is fueled by religious differences. Anyway, it goes on, but that's what they are allowed and encouraged to use lying as a form of deception and a tool of war. So they'll lie right to your face and stab you in the back. And if you're at war with them, and what is going on. That's part of what propaganda is, and that's what a lot of people's minds are being infected with right now. There's a huge information war, a huge psyop going on. So I'm just saying that not everything you're seeing coming out of there is truth. And in fact, what you're also being subjected to is revisionist postmodern history, where they are completely rewriting the past. And it's taken me a while to kind of figure out what some of these guys are doing. But I've clued into it because I'm a fossil. I'm old. I remember things. And then I'm catching them in just outright freaking lies. Some of these online streamers. And some of them, I think, are just useful regurgitators, where they just repeat talking points that they're being given, but it's not truth; it's propaganda. Anyway, I didn't mean to call and do like an on-show assault on you or anything.
No, Rick, don't worry about it, Rick. I'm good. I'm good with everything. I understand where you're going. You're looking at a source, and I've never heard that source, but
yeah,
you're right. You're right with that source, but I'm looking at other sources too.
Thing about the UN is I don't know that we can trust the UN either, because they're sort of they're a weird international toothless body in many respects, and often they come out either anti-Russian or they'll come on the other side and be anti-American, and yet the U.S. and Russia both have veto power. It's a strange organization. But so before you go, say something pleasant and happy to me, so we can end this conversation on a positive note. Tell me a joke or something. You haven't done that in a long time.
What? What gas? Car gas? I don't know why. Gas must be going on. It's Gaza. It's Gaza. The gas is going up tonight because of Gaza. Oh my God. I'm sorry, Rick.
That's okay, man.
Right now, you took it to me, man. You took it to me. Okay, you win.
Nah, you keep sending me the stuff. You keep trying to change my mind. It's okay. I actually appreciate it. It's challenging to me. It makes me think. It makes me just look into things even deeper. It makes me better. And it educates me too. Not so much because of the stuff you send, because I think the sources that you go to are sometimes a little sketchy, but it still forces me to go in and explore to find real facts, and I think that serves the viewers here too. So I actually do appreciate it.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm trying to get this link here. I'm going to post it, and when you guys have time, this guy, you ever heard of Norman Finkelstein? He's a Jew. Norman Finkelstein?
I don't know, maybe. I don't know.
He's an old guy. I sent it to you before, Rick, but I know you didn't watch it.
I might have.
This guy, he explains Gaza from 1948 all the way to now. He's been studying Gaza all his life. And that's what he does. And if you want to know the history about Gaza, you listen to someone like this.
Well,
and you will.
I listen to a lot of people. You send it to me, and I think you did send it to me before. I vaguely remember it. And I'll watch everything. I'll try to watch. I try to watch it, but
if you
and read.
Watch this guy, and then talk to me.
I'll do that.
Gaza. But
challenge
guy,
accepted.
He'll explain what mow the lawn means.
I know what that means.
Okay, and he'll explain how they used to go in there. They used to shoot people in the kneecaps just to cripple people on purpose. It's an open prison. It's been like that.
Okay,
since
well,
1948.
we've been down this path. I said let's end on a positive note. You go ahead and send that to me. We can talk about it more.
I just posted it now. I'll send it to you too on your whatever phone there. But you know what? Listening to you so much, I'm just starting to think I don't want to get involved anymore. I'm sitting here and I got a backyard. I got money. I got food in the fridge. I got a car. My life's good. Put it that way. I don't have to rack my brains over this stuff. You know, it's like Trump. I don't have to rack my brains over Trump. You know what I mean?
I don't know if anybody racks their brains when they're thinking about Trump. I get what you're saying.
You'd be surprised how many people just Trump. And anyways,
What?
As long as I'm happy, I got food on the table. Today I was looking at real estate in Acapulco because I got family that have condominiums in Acapulco. These very wealthy people.
Yeah.
And they go down there in the wintertime. That's it. And when push comes to shove, Rick, we got to find a place to go. I'm thinking maybe go to Acapulco.
Well, I'll tell you what. That I still have to. I'm still putting together like a longer report on Costa Rica, and so when I run that, I'll call you up and we'll have a conversation about Mexico too.
Is it safe there? That's my first question.
Mm-hmm. Well,
when you were down there, did you feel safe?
I survived, but when I went into town, I can't say that I felt safe. But that's because it's a strange place. I don't know much about it, right? It felt a little scuzzy to me, honestly.
My uncle came by today, and he's got a place there. Another cousin of mine's got a place, and he told me, you're safe as long as you stay in. If you go wandering in the hills and stuff like that, you could be trouble. If you're in Acapulco itself, and you got the beach there, you got everything's cheap. He says you can buy everything real cheap. 1-bedroom condo, nice 1-bedroom condo, not a 130 US for a nice one. These are nice big condos, 1-bedroom. And you have a nice life down there. But I don't know. I got to talk to him again about other stuff.
Yeah, see, that's the thing
I
about...
know, but I don't know where to go. I'm looking for a place to go in case... I hope Polyev does his job and changes everything, you know, for the good. But there's 3 types of politicians, Rick. There's ones like Trump, billionaires, who make more money for billionaires. There's socialists who take the money away from everybody and give it to the poor, our money.
Sort of.
And then you got the I guess the liberal, I don't know, the party that's middle class, you know, but they all got agendas. So
they do.
I don't have a problem right now. Everything's good. The world's good. I got more. I'm doing good.
So that's good. So you're doing well in a country that you're not happy with, but has actually overall treated you pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, my life's been good overall because I'm a hard worker. I got a profession, and I've never been down and out. I've never been on unemployment.
Yeah.
And I've always I treat people with respect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I stopped hanging around the bad crowd. That's for sure.
Well, listen, Rick, I'm going to wrap this up because I've got more ground to cover here, and the clock is ticking.
Sorry, nice talking to you, Rick. Anytime, but you should listen to that Finkstone and let me know. Let me know what you think of him. That's all I want to know.
Send me the link. I'll watch it.
Yeah, I will.
I'll watch anything.
Sounds like you know what you're talking about. Okay.
All right.
Have a good night.
See you, man. Bye. Political debate. WWE. Well, I guess that's the way it goes these days, right? But there's Richard Falk. I was just trying to show what the truth is behind what that organization is, where the information comes from, why it's entirely slanted and biased. It's not, it's all anti-Israel, it's all pro-Palestine. And more than that, it is communo-fascistic. He's a Marxist. He's a globalist. That's the thing that's what I'm trying to explain. I've been trying to tell people this for quite a while. This is like, what's going on there is related, obviously, to the protests in the streets right now. It's related to the Palestinian encampments, the little Gazas on all the university campuses across North America and even around the world. This is a political movement. It is not just about the war in Gaza. This is global. This is a world war. And it's the communists and the people on the other side, the Islamo-fascists. Let me help clue you in here a little bit. I was watching Sam Harris on Impact Theory. Brief clip from him talking about exactly this thing. He gets it. He sees the threat. He understands. And this is what I'm talking about. I've never said that I want anybody to die in Gaza. I don't want any Palestinians to die. And I said from the very beginning that it was a trap for Netanyahu to go in there heavy the way that he did. He shouldn't have done that. Wrong approach, wrong thing to do, bad strategy, really dumb. I've always said that from the beginning. Anyway, there is a greater threat, though, all related to this, and that is that this is really about a global conflict and the expansion of authoritarianism through the convergence of communism and fascism.
And the most obscene distortions of moral intuition here can be seen in moments like when Linda Sarsour, this hijabi theocrat bully, gets picked as one of the women to anchor the Women's March, right? She's wearing, Shepard Fairey does a hijabi poster, and the very symbol of essentially gender apartheid throughout the Muslim world is co-opted as a symbol of women's empowerment in the West, right? This is, it's just a complete nullification of moral intelligence and the very real solidarity that should be obvious between women who care about their rights in the West and the women they ostensibly care about in the Muslim world who are being thrown in prison for taking the hijab off. I mean, it's just the confusion is so obvious. It's so right on the surface. Eventually, people will be embarrassed by this. I mean, insofar as culture is incapable of improving itself, and we know it is, there's going to come a time when with all these girls from Barnard and Columbia and Brandeis and all these liberal institutions are going to be embarrassed to look back at how they just got confused about the valence of religious symbols, who their friends were, who their enemies were at moment. I mean, it is as upside down as anything awful in our racist past, and it has the additional variable of being masochistic. I mean, it's like, at least with old school racist outgroup hatred, it was your attack. The victims are others, but what was happened in the West. I mean, to take another example from the UK. I mean, like the Rotherham scandal, right, where you have literally over 1,000 English girls, some of whom are 12 years old, getting raped by mostly Pakistani men, and no one is doing anything about it because everyone's afraid to be called racist. So literally, the parents would come into the police station and say, "My daughter was just gang raped by a bunch of taxi drivers," and it wouldn't be prosecuted because the police department was so afraid of being called racist. The optics of the problem was so intolerable that everyone was allergic to it. It's this kind of masochism that is going to undo the West, and it's going to undo I mean, I've been saying this for 20 years, and I think hopefully this will never come true, but we're seeing the signs of it coming true. Insofar as the left can't get its head screwed on straight around this specific variable of Islamism and jihadism, it will potentiate right-wing populism and a thirst for right-wing authoritarianism across the West, and we will have fascist governments because, as David Frum once said, if liberals won't police borders, fascists will.
Yep. So I don't know if that helps you, but I do have something else that might give you perspective on this in a clearer way. And these historical revisionists keeps using context to justify their perspective on everything too. It's like they justify all of the violence coming from one side, the Palestinian Hamas side, and I need to distinguish that. I'm talking about the extreme terroristic side of things. They justify that, saying that, use of violence is justified because you have to look at it in the proper context. It's always about the context, not about facts. Whether you're talking about Elon Pape or Mr. Falk, that's where they go. It's like it's the oppressed versus the oppressor argument. If you're oppressed, you're allowed to use violence in order to achieve your political goals because you're being oppressed. If you're the oppressor, you can't use violence because you have all the power, you see, which is kind of the dynamic that's in play right now in Gaza. Israel, it's supposed to be proportional. No, it's a war. So it's about winning. And so I understand that argument, but I also understand that it has been a trap for Israel to go in and do what they've done, because the real war is not about the violence. The real war is here. It's the information war. And losing makes you the oppressed, and so when that appears on video, you win. Get it? More than that, it starts in universities. Why do you think you are seeing all of these protests on university campuses? Few reasons. Main reason is you need to educate young people in order to groom them for the generations to come. And I should have mentioned this to John when he was on, because he's talked a lot about AIPAC, and he's talked a lot about how the Jews control all the money, as many of you probably believe. But let me ask you this, who gives the largest amount of money to universities in the United States? And I don't have the figures for Canada handy, but probably similar in Canada. Any idea who gives the most money to the universities? What group? Anybody? No cheating. Okay, if I just let somebody come on and say it, they would. I've heard it many times. They say it's the Jews. The Jews control everything. So how much does Israel contribute to U.S. universities? How much money? $342 million in gifts and contracts from Israel from 2014 to 2024, according to a database from the U.S. Department of Education. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But who is the biggest donor? That's not the biggest. Qatar. Qatar has contributed like almost $5 billion, $4.7 billion to American post-secondary institutions. You don't think that has some influence? Why do you think the administrations have allowed these encampments to percolate on front lawns on campuses for this length of time? Why do you think they've been so tolerant? $4.7 billion, that's why. No, am I making it up? No. How much money does Qatar donate to United States universities? Here, I'll bring it up on the screen, just so you know. I'm not just pulling this out of thin air. It's documented. Here it is. Boom. $4.7 billion. Sorry. And a lot of that comes directly from the Muslim Brotherhood. Why do you think you're getting identity politics, secularism, anti-colonialism, progressivism, all this death to America teaching inside our universities? Self-destructive. Now we're at the point where people are no longer proud of their country, no national pride. How is this country going to survive? How is Canada, how is the US going to survive if people hate their own country? They know that that's exactly what will rip it apart. So they've undermined national pride. They've stripped people of their culture, of their heritage, of their, maybe not their culture, depends on what culture you're part of. But they're undermining our history. They're rewriting it. Postmodernists. Just rewrite history. It's very Orwellian. But if you think that's coming from the Jews, better dig a little deeper. It's the WEF. It's the CIA. No, it's much more insidious. It's Marxism, cultural Marxism. It's the convergence of both. Here I have, this is something that just came out from Elika Laban. This lady, I have to tell you, finally somebody who has taken what I've been trying to tell people for a few years now, and she's put this into very understandable terms. Just listen to her.
If every single day that you wake up, you are more confused than the day before about the state of this world, this is single-handedly the most important thing that you are going to need to understand if we are going to make it out of this time. What we are all collectively witnessing right now, the spell that has befallen the entire world, this is Soviet propaganda. And I'm going to explain to you where this comes from. This Soviet propaganda is from the marriage of convenience between the atheist radical left and the ultra-religious radical right. The Marxists and the Islamists, okay? The Marxists and the Islamists have joined forces in a covert union to bring about the destruction of the West. And I'm going to explain how and why. So after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Trotskyites were disseminating this propaganda worldwide to globalize their Soviet revolution. Now, in order to achieve the destruction of the West, the destruction of capitalism, they needed to align with a reactionary force. So they aligned with the Islamists. They saw the Islamists as the reactionary force capable of destroying the West, right? Now, what was required to make this alliance successful is that both sides were going to have to make quick concessions and trade-offs, right? For the part of the Marxist left, they traded off our individual rights. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Our individual rights, our freedom of speech, our freedom of religion, women's rights, anti-discrimination, all of that traded to the Islamists in exchange for that reactionary force that would bring down capitalism in the West. For the Islamist part, they would have to pretend to care about all those things to sell it to the left, to export that to the left. They would have to pretend to care about anti-racism, anti-imperialism, women's rights. Do you see now why the Islamists, the most racist, anti-women, imperialist force in the entire world, is posturing as the opposite of those things? But here's what's happening now. That marriage of convenience started in America as the fringe left. It didn't just start overnight. This has been here for a long time. It was the fringe. Over time, through radicalization and through propaganda, that fringe left has become the main left. And that is why so many of us who woke up Many people woke up after October 7th, right? They've been pushed out of the left because they don't identify with this Soviet propaganda, which they don't understand what it is. Nobody knows what it is, but they just know these are not the leftist values that we grew up on, right? So it's not us that's changed. It's the fringe that has expanded into the left. But the cracks have now started to show, and these are the things that nobody can make sense of. If these people are pro-women's rights, why are they raping women? If these people are anti-racists, why do they say they want to kill the Jews? If these people are anti-imperialists, why do they seek ultra-nationalist goals of taking over not just this land, but the entire region to secure another caliphate? That is imperialism. This is why you have never seen leftists that have been indoctrinated by this Soviet propaganda work harder in your life to defend rape, to defend sexual assault. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that in your life? Leftists, women's rights advocates and champions defending rape. How do we know it happened? Because you saw the naked bodies being dragged through the streets. You saw the blood. That's not enough for you to understand what's happening. That's indoctrination, where you can see things with your own eyes and not believe what you saw with your eyes, but believe the propaganda that was sold to you. That is called indoctrination. Now, on the Marxist left side, the cracks that you're seeing is that their whole sell was, we are against oppressors and pro the oppressed. We don't believe in all of this class stuff. Well, hang on a minute. You seem to be supporting the Islamists, and they are the biggest classists in the world. They are the biggest oppressors in the world. And that's why you have never seen the Marxist radical lefts work so hard to convince you that these are not the oppressors, they're the oppressed. And it defies everything that you see with your own eyes. But wait a minute. What about in Iran? We see what they're doing. No. They're oppressed. They're fighting Western imperialism. Yep, they're oppressed by Western imperialism. Which Western imperialism is happening in Iran? It would be happening if they weren't there. So that's why they need to, because they're oppressed by Western imperialism. You've been duped. Soviet propaganda has never been more successful. And I can tell you how this ends. I can tell you how this ends because there is one example. There is one example in contemporary history where this marriage of convenience between the Marxist left and the Islamist right has been successful. And that time was 1979. 1979 in Iran, the left communist Tudeh party aligned with the Khomeinists, okay, to bring about the revolution that brought in the Islamic Republic. That is how this ends. I need you to wake up yesterday. I need you to pay attention to those feelings in your gut where you justify rape, where you deny that rape happened, when you say anti-Semitism is okay, despite the fact that you've been doing anti-racism work your whole life, despite the fact that you've been doing pro-women's rights work your whole life, that all of a sudden your narrative has switched. You've done a total about face because the radical left that has bled out, the fringe left that has bled out into the entire left has convinced you that this is the correct narrative, even though it defies everything in your being, even though you wish you could speak out, but you can't because you'll be attacked and ostracized by the left. It is time to take a step that is bigger than you and bigger than us, and recognize that if we don't all turn around now, it ends in 1979 in Iran. This is not an authentic state of being. This is Soviet propaganda, and that is why nothing about this world makes sense right now, not even to you who fell for it.
I hope you got the message, man. I hope. I keep trying to tell people. It's upside down world for a reason. 1979. You know who was president in 1979? Jimmy Carter. Weak president. weak. The Iran hostage crisis. At least back then, they acknowledged that they were hostages and didn't call them prisoners. Who's in the White House now? Another Democrat, another weak president who is clearly not on side with Israel. Even though they're supplying the weapons, they're not really on side. It's sick. We need strength, peace through strength, and then strength through peace. But we're not there. Far from it. We're in a lot of trouble. Wow. I think that's a good place to leave it tonight. I hope that just marinates a little bit with you overnight. And we will resume tomorrow. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love you guys. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.